right, friend. I do hope summer of 2025 is treating you well. Welcome to our podcast. This is Coming Out Stories, and I'm the host, Emma Goswell. The podcast is brought to you by What Goes On Media. And you know what? We're incredibly lucky. We're in our 6th season, and beautiful people from across the LGBTQ plus spectrum are still taking time to sit down with us and tell us their stories. So whoever you are and however you identify, I do hope there's an episode or two in our back catalogue that inspires you, makes you smile, and maybe even helps you on your journey, whether you're part of our community or a very important ally. Do give us a follow wherever you source your podcast, then you won't miss an episode. You can also check us out on social media. You'll find us easily on Facebook, and on Instagram we are at Coming Out Stories Pod. Time now to meet our next guest. Christina is an out and proud trans woman, originally from Oldham in Greater Manchester, who then moved to Yorkshire for secondary school. She's one of the few people I've spoken to who actually told their GP about their gender identity before even broaching the subject with a friend. It was quite the journey to being the happy, confident woman she is today. And to begin with, she was so scared to tell people. She even wrote letters to friends as she couldn't utter the words. Let's hear from her, shall we?
I could tell something was different pretty young, to be honest. I knew there was something off when I was a kid, but I didn't know exactly what. It's probably easier now looking back through a trans lens, kind of reframing things that are quite obviously trans experiences as a child now. But at the time, maybe don't seem so obvious. I can't think of any kind of childhood instances where I knew I was trans, but there were plenty of times when I knew I was different, and it's probably kind of manifested just in the sense of I always felt like one of the girls. I always felt most comfortable around the girls, playing with them, doing girly things. I gravitated really heavily away from anything boyish, and I didn't really understand why I had to do those things.
You weren't loving being in a football team then?
No, absolutely not. In fact, my dad tried desperately to get me into football as a kid, and I remember he took me to a football match, which I'm told is a really big deal. It was Oldham versus Manchester City, and I don't know what that match was, but it was supposed to be a big deal. And I remember about halfway through the match, I turned to my dad and said, "Dad, have I been really naughty? Why have you brought me here? Is this a punishment?" Because I just didn't understand it. But the thing is, everyone around me was kind of viewing all my experiences through a cis-het lens, and so being surrounded by all the girls and being friends with all the girls, it was very much like, oh, he's got all the girls running after him. He's going to be a proper little ladies' man when he's older. It's like, no, I'm a kid. I like dresses and horses and shoe shopping.
Who doesn't? And I'm guessing that, other kids are very astute, aren't they? Or other kids can be very mean as well. Were they saying things to you about gender and saying, oh, you're like a girl or you're very feminine? Were they saying stuff like that?
Primary school particularly. So my first primary school, I was at school in Greater Manchester in Shaw. I was bullied quite badly for being effeminate, and I was very much kind of seen as one of the girls within kind of my friendship groups. Yeah. And up until year 6, when I moved schools, but up to that point, I was bullied for being more feminine and not being manly enough and not being boyish enough. But that kind of petered out towards year 6, and I'd kind of got to a place where I was very much accepted in school as not a girl, but certainly like not one of the guys. The guys didn't want anything to do with me, essentially, and all my close friends were girls. But then in year 6, I moved primary schools. We moved house, and I moved primary schools over to Yorkshire. At that point, going into a new school, I was the new kid, and everybody saw me as one of the boys because I was this new boy coming into the school, so I didn't have any of that context. And obviously that was quite jarring because it was a new environment, a new experience, and you want to be accepted, and you want to make new friends. And it was a very gendered school, so the girls played hockey and the boys played rugby. It wasn't a segregated school, but there was clear gender divides, which I wasn't used to. We didn't have that in my previous school. So it was kind of all of a sudden, all these gender divides were just dropped on me. And it was a new environment. I didn't know anybody. And there was all these expectations that came with being the new boy at school.
And did you get bullied for being the new boy? Or was that sense that, oh, here's a cool new kid from Manchester?
A little bit of both. It were really small form groups. It was a small school, so it wasn't a case of there being really school bullies, but I was pushed towards certain things within the school, and it was very challenging. And I remember, I was quite a good swimmer at primary school, so I went to this school, and I remember we had swim class as part of our PE, and I just didn't want to do it. I just felt really uncomfortable being in the boys' changing room, wearing swim trunks. I didn't feel like that was okay for me. I didn't know why, but it's kind of easy to see why now, because it's not normal for a girl to just wear swim trunks and swim. And
the benefit of hindsight, as they say.
Yeah, the benefit of hindsight. So I was feeling very uneasy and very uncomfortable. And so in year 6 at this school, they did a school play. And they were doing A Midsummer Night's Dream, very advanced for year 6. And I got given the part of Flute the Bellows Mender. And for anyone who knows what A Midsummer Night's Dream is about, there's a play within a play. And that role is a young man playing a young woman in the play within a play. So for a trans kid, that was really, really hard, because I knew even then, I don't really even know why, but societally I'd been kind of conditioned to know I wasn't a girl and I wasn't allowed to be. It was wrong to be. So the idea of wearing a dress on a stage, I thought I was going to get in trouble. I felt like there was something wrong with that, and it wasn't allowed. I remember being in tears on the playground because I'd been given this role, and the idea of it's a new school was all daunting. I've got to wear a dress, and people are going to think.
But it's Shakespeare, so it's okay.
So it's Shakespeare, it's okay. Well, a girl who I ended up being in school with all the way through to sixth form. We were never friends, and she's an out and proud lesbian now, coincidentally. But she came up to me in the playground and basically said that to me. Yeah, it's Shakespeare, you're allowed. It's fine. You're not going to get in trouble.
It's all about cross-dressing, isn't it, on the stage?
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I have to say, this is not about me, it's about you, but it's just reminded me when I was it must have been last year of primary school, and we put on Peter Pan, and I really wanted to be Captain Hook, and they said to me, you can't be because you're a girl. I just went away really upset and really annoyed, and just sort of went, okay, fair enough. And then they came up to me and approached me and said, but we want you to audition to be Peter Pan, and they made me be Peter Pan. And I was like, but that's a boy as well. It just made no sense to me. The madness of theatre. So did you relish the role? Did you get into it? Did you?
I did in the end.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it was even that kind of made me think that it wasn't allowed. But growing up in the 90s, there were a lot of icons, the Spice Girls. I played a lot of video games, so Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, and a lot of heroines and people that I looked up to, that I aspired towards more than the kind of male role models I was expected to aspire towards. That wasn't the average experience. So obviously I, as a kid, just thought, well, why do none of the other boys feel like this? This is just me. I'm the only person who feels like this.
They're not into the Spice Girls.
No.
But then the gay boys would have been, wouldn't they? Was there a sense that people thought you might be gay?
I got called that a few times at school, always in a derogatory sense. Growing up in the 90s, again, it was kind of the era where gay was used in school to mean bad. If something was gay, it was bad. Whereas, obviously, it's not at all. It's gay or straight or.
I think it's still going on, sadly, isn't it? It's
it
still
is, yeah.
used as a slur. It's horrific.
It is, which is surprising, but it was really prevalent in the early noughties. Obviously, Section 28, it wasn't talked about in schools.
And did you ever sort of think, oh, maybe I'm gay, or was there never any question in your mind?
Later, yeah. But actually, even when I kind of became familiar with the idea and the concept of being transgender, it was one of the things that kind of made me feel like maybe I wasn't, is that I was still attracted to girls. So I was like, well, girls are attracted to guys, and I'm not that attracted to guys, so I can't be transgender.
And all this time when you were growing up, what were your parents having to say? Were they trying to reaffirm stereotypical gender roles?
Yeah, very much so, yeah. So, my parents were always very supportive, were always there for me growing up, but they didn't know how to raise a queer kid, and they didn't have any frame of reference for that, or even it didn't even enter their minds that was a possibility. So there were lots and lots of instances which reinforced that it wasn't okay to be gay or to be trans, and there were lots of instances where they made me feel like I couldn't talk to them about it. So again, growing up when I did, obviously I went through an emo phase, as everybody did. I'm not sure I ever grew out of
Quite
it really,
right.
but
Well, we were goths in my day. In the 80s, we were goths.
yeah, I mean,
Everyone
I'm
did.
perhaps gravitated that a bit more that way now. But
Yeah, you are looking quite gothic, actually.
yeah, I was described today as a young Morticia Adams, which I'm here for. So
Fabulous.
yeah, so the kind of emo phase, boys had slightly longer hair, which was a good excuse for me to have slightly longer hair. And I remember my parents got me some GHDs for Christmas one year.
Nice.
And, I loved that because I could style my hair how I wanted to. But, it was things like, I remember styling it in a particularly feminine way, which I thought looked great. And my dad said, change it, you look like a girl. And, to him, he doesn't even remember that. But it sticks out to me like a sore thumb because it's an instance of him telling me, you look like a girl, and the way it was phrased, and that's a bad thing.
And that's not what you should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, now, if someone said, change it, you look like a girl, I'd say, oh, well, that's the point, so thanks. That's actually a compliment.
That's what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at the time, not so much. And, little comments, and something would be on the television about a transgender person. And my dad would say something like, oh, I've got no problem with it, but I wouldn't want them in a changing room with your mum.
Oh,
And he's not transphobic. He's very supportive. And I love my dad dearly.
because he knows you and he loves you, clearly.
Yeah.
But it was interesting what you said before, which so many people have said to me. People don't know how to raise queer kids.
No, they don't. And they don't know the damage that those kind of things that they say does, because it's not meant maliciously. But the ignorance of it does leave a lasting impression, and it does leave a lasting impact. And my dad might be mortified that I would, mention that on a podcast, but it's something that was quite formative for me. And, I know lots and lots of people that have had similar experiences. And like I said, I love my dad dearly, and he's so supportive now. I mean, the other day I was there playing with the dogs at my parents' house, and my dad said, "Oh, are you excited?" to the dogs, like, "Oh, are you excited to see your big sister?" And like my heart melted, like at that, being affirmed and being supported. And I think they always would have supported me, but they didn't always know how. There was lots and lots and lots of things in society generally, and the only examples I ever really had, in television of transness in any context was either drag queens, Lily Savage, or Eddie Izzard was an example that I was quite prominent. Was probably one of the first trans people I ever saw on television. But it was always in the context of either a tragic story or the subject of ridicule or performative. And that's obviously not how I feel or I am. I mean, it's not a performance. I'm not portraying a character. It's just who I am, and it's not something to be laughed at or ridiculed. It's just me.
It's just who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And when was the first time that you verbalised that? Then you actually sat down and told someone that you were trans and there was going to be a new you, as it were, visually for other people?
Well, I didn't really have the context of being trans for a really long time. And the first time I really kind of got to grips with it, I kind of sort of thought about it a little bit in high school and into sixth form. But I didn't really have a concept of it properly until I went to university. And my first year at university was, I had independence for the first time. And I kind of had autonomy for the first time, where I could make my own decisions and I could go and, find things out for myself, where I really kind of started to research this and looked into it and thought, okay, actually, maybe I'm transgender. So I was about 18, about 2008. I hadn't told anybody at this point. All the research I did online and everything, I talked to a few people online, other trans people, kind of forums and things like that, as it was in the day. And I did what I thought I was supposed to do, and I went to the GP. This was at university. I remember sitting in the waiting room, like my legs shaking. I was really nervous. I was really scared to tell somebody, this is how I'm feeling. I felt really nervous. It felt like this was a bad thing, and I was kind of admitting something bad.
And so you
myself.
hadn't actually told a friend at all at this point?
No.
You just went straight to the GP? Wow.
Yeah, I'd not told a friend, no. I didn't feel like I could tell anybody, because it felt like all the information I was getting from externally was either like, this is a fetish, or this is like something to be ashamed of, it's something bad. It's a negative outcome, which is kind of how it's still kind of seen in a lot of the world, that being trans is a negative outcome.
Yeah. Although I would say in Greater Manchester there are definitely trans support groups. And
for sure, yeah. I'm on the committee for one, yeah. So I helped run one in Greater Manchester, which was an immense help to me when I first came out, when I first went there. And networked with other trans people and got to know people. But I was at university over in Sheffield and away from home. I didn't know many people there, and I went to the doctor. I went to the GP.
Yeah.
And I told the GP. I think I think I might be transgender. And we asked a lot of questions and basically came to the conclusion that yes, yeah, I'm depressed. And my argument was I'm depressed because I'm transgender and I need to do something about it.
Which came first, yeah.
And but they said, have you had anything big happen in your life recently? I said, oh, well, my granddad died recently. They went, oh, well, there you go then. That's what the problem is. Actually, you're not transgender, you're just depressed, so you're just confused. So what we'll do is you need to take these antidepressants and go away and then come back in 6 months and see how you're doing. And if you still feel the same, we'll look at it again.
It's like antidepressants are the answer to everything for GPs sometimes, aren't they? I had the same thing once.
So, yeah, but obviously it doesn't go away. Antidepressants don't solve anything. So I went away, I took the antidepressants, and they didn't work. So I went back and they said, oh, well, we think it's actually just your dosage of antidepressants that's wrong. So we'll change that and then we'll see how you go. So I was pumped full of antidepressants where I didn't really need to be. And basically at that point, I didn't feel sad anymore. I didn't really feel anything. I just felt very numb. I just felt very kind of disconnected from everything, and it affected my studies, and it affected my social life. My mental health were negatively impacted by this because I was not dealing with the issue. I was treating a symptom in a very negative, very non-constructive way. It was very, very invalidating because at that kind of age, you trust your GP, and if you've gone to the GP and said, hey, I think I'm transgender, and they say, no, you're not, you might believe them because they're telling you no and medicating you, so you're not getting anywhere.
They have too much power, don't they? But we have to remember they are general practitioners. They are not experts on anything.
No. So yeah, didn't get anywhere with it, and that was the first time I told anybody. And I went home that summer and tried to tell my parents, but didn't really get anywhere with it. It just felt like I was being a problem by telling them that I was causing conflict.
What was their reaction?
Well, I didn't tell them that I was trans. I told them I was on antidepressants, and I tried to explain why, but it was very hard. I found it incredibly difficult, and it took a really, really long time to get over that experience, really. I just kind of coasted through my early 20s, didn't do anything about it, didn't feel like I could. I'd basically been told, you're not transgender, so I kind of like went, okay, well, I'm not, so I don't know what I am now. I don't know what to do. Wasted a lot of time, let a lot of other people kind of decide my life for me, really, and was in a work environment that was really transphobic, homophobic, racist, misogynistic, whatever discriminatory
what line of work
practice.
Was it, so we can all avoid it?
Engineering.
Right.
So I'm still an engineer now. I'm a mechanical engineer. My previous workplace, every form of discriminatory practice you can think of, they probably had it. It was a really hostile work environment. So coasted through my 20s, met my now ex-wife in 2017. I went climbing with some friends. She fell off a climbing wall and broke a leg. And I was like, now's my chance. I'll ask her out on a date.
That sounds like an unusual first date.
So went on a date a couple of weeks later, ended up dating for a long time, getting married a few years later. But in about 2019, I think it was, COVID happened, just at the start of 2020. And for that period, I was at home a lot, had a lot of time to myself, had a lot of time to think. And all those same feelings started bubbling over again. And it was just kind of like almost that I'd been able to switch off from everything because I just distracted myself with everything else going on in my life.
People have busy lives, and I think if COVID didn't really change you in some way, and I'm talking about everybody, then you didn't really do lockdown properly, because everybody had to take a long, hard look at themselves and their life choices, didn't they?
Yeah, very much so. And this, was true all the way through until the present day, really. I was happy with my partner and my house and my dog and my family and my friends. I was happy with all the things in my life, my peripheral things in my life. I wasn't happy with me in that life. I was fundamentally unhappy in myself. And I ended up telling my partner in 2019 that I thought I was experiencing gender dysphoria. I needed to get help and I needed to talk through it. And that was a difficult conversation. That was the first time I'd told anybody, period, that I was feeling that way.
And by this stage, you're already married? Yeah.
No, we weren't married at that point, no.
Oh, right, okay.
No, so we were just engaged. So that she was my fiancée then. We talked through it all, and I started seeing a therapist and started dealing with my feelings. We talked through it all, and we decided still to get married. So we got married coming out of lockdown. I got referred to a gender identity clinic at that point. And then we got married coming out of COVID. I was going through therapy, talking to friends, networking with other trans people, networking with other people who were gender diverse, non-binary, trans men, trans women. And initially, I came out as non-binary. So I worked through a lot of my feelings, and I basically was absolutely concrete on I am not a man.
Yeah.
That I'm not a man. And I talked to my partner about it, and it felt right for me at the time. But what I was kind of mistaking was the absence of something bad being something good. So them didn't hurt me, but it didn't bring me any joy either.
Did you express non-binariness in any way? I mean, were you wearing feminine clothing and doing your hair?
Yeah. I was having my nails done. Yeah. I was kind of being presenting more feminine, more androgynous, certainly, growing my hair, kind of getting rid of masculine things I had going on at the time.
And your fiance was on board with that?
Yeah, absolutely on board with it, yeah. And my then wife, absolutely on board with it. Yeah, she was so supportive, and she still is. She's my best friend still, and like one of my biggest advocates. She was very, very supportive, and we stayed together for a couple of years through my transition. But at some point, I got from being kind of androgynous presenting to looking in the mirror and seeing a girl looking back at me. And when that happened, and I looked in the mirror and saw a girl, like, I can't really describe the euphoria from that. And it was like finding something I didn't know was missing. It just kind of fell into place. I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's it. That's the one. That's what the problem is.
So it wasn't until you fully transitioned that you were 100%, thank God I did that. This is me.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was such a hard process. Like the first few times I told friends and things, I had to do it in a letter. I couldn't physically say the words. I couldn't get the words out to tell someone that I was transgender. I just couldn't do it. It was like a mental block that I could not deal with.
So you wrote letters to all your friends?
I wrote letters to a few friends. I did it in person, so I handed a letter over to them, and then they read it. So I was there, but I couldn't say it out loud to them. I just couldn't do it. I think every time I did it, it got a little easier. I came out to my friends, and I came out to my parents, and my partner supported me through all of that. And she wanted the best for me and wanted me to be happy in myself. But it was also a really hard process for both of us, because she, as much as she wanted me to embrace myself and support myself, she wants to date a man, and I'm not one. So she just doesn't have it in her to date a girl. And for someone who isn't straight themselves, that's quite challenging for me, because, I wanted that relationship, but equally I want her to be happy. She wants me to be happy. And we've come out of it just as best friends, and she just wants me to be happy and just supports me completely. I support her completely.
It's so difficult, isn't it, for partners? Because, she
is,
sounds
yeah.
like a wonderful woman, and she's completely in love with you. But I guess in some respects, it's not what she signed up for. It's not what she thought was going to happen.
No, and I totally get that. It's one of the things that I've kind of found listening to this podcast and other podcasts like it. One thing that I've found quite interesting is hearing the experiences and the stories of gay men and gay women coming out later in life, out of straight-facing relationships. Obviously, when they make the decision to come out and say, this is who I am, and this is what I want for myself, because this is how I feel, I'm in a relationship with someone who's the wrong gender, they are making a decision to leave that relationship because the relationship is wrong for them. Whereas someone who's trans, actually, the relationship might be exactly right for them. It's very much on their partner to decide if the relationship's right. So it's kind of the balls in their court, really, and the shoes on the other foot, where they find they're in a relationship with someone of the wrong gender.
It's very hard, isn't it? And I've spoken to trans people who have stayed in their relationship. Equally, I've spoken to a lot who have sadly lost their relationships, like yourself. At least you still have that friendship. So
yeah, and I'm really glad for that. I'm really glad that we're still in each other's lives and we still have that connection to look after each other. But it was very hard. I lost friends coming out. For the most part, most people that I told were so okay with it. One of the best reactions that I had was one of my friends from school who I've known a really long time. I've known since primary school. I told him, I gave him a letter and he read it, and he said, "Oh, that's brilliant. I was really worried it was something bad. And
What, you're going to say you were ill or something?
yeah, and I was like,
yeah.
oh, you know what? I feel so stupid now, actually, for not telling you because you were so okay with it.
That's brilliant. And were you surprised by the people whose friendships you did lose?
I was, yeah. I mean, one friend, I'd been friends with a really long time and had lived with me for a period when he was really struggling. He always saw me like a sibling and, always said that I'd saved his life by giving him somewhere to stay when he had nowhere else to go. And I drove him to his job interviews and got him back in work and things like that. And we were really close. And it came about basically that he felt like he was treading on eggshells around me. There was no conflict. There was no argument. There was no discussion which led to that conclusion on his part. He just felt uncomfortable saying things which were ultimately pretty problematic around me, which I told him that says more about the fact that those things that you're saying are wrong. Basically homophobic things, transphobic things. And he valued his ability to say and do stupid homophobic and transphobic things more than our friendship.
So depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was very upsetting at the time. But in retrospect, it's not really a friendship that I would want to maintain.
No. And did everyone else, like your parents, for example, get along fine with changing pronouns? Because that can be difficult for some people.
My parents struggled. And for a long time, for like the first year, I would say we had a lot of conflict around it because they would get my pronouns wrong. They would say things which were problematic. And it felt like they weren't trying. They told me they were trying, but I didn't see it. And that was the problem. I know they love me and I know they support me. But at some point, trying has to translate into succeeding. And I wasn't seeing that. And it took a really long time for them to get it right. And actually, I think that they found it harder to do they, them than they did she, her. I think they adapted she, her very quickly, actually.
Yeah, because people are more used to it, I guess. That's all.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess because people are more used to it, but I don't know what it is really, because I have done this with so many people where I've had this conversation with them about the use of they, them pronouns and how we do it all the time, and everyone does it without even thinking about it. True. And I did. I actually had an experience on a Pride committee that I was part of where the people on the Pride committee just could not get they, them pronouns right for anybody. They just couldn't do it. They said, "Oh, it's modern, it's new. I'm not used to it. We never do it." And I said, "That's absolute nonsense. And I'm going to prove it to you. We're going to play a game of Guess Who. And I'm going to think of someone around this table. And the only thing you can't ask me is what's their gender. Okay. Are they wearing a hat? Are they wearing glasses? Did they drive here? What colour's their hair?" And when we finished, they guessed who it was. And I said, "Then there you go. And every single question you just asked me, you used they, them, without even thinking about it. And the only thing you took out of the equation is what their gender was." So
true. So true. So, what does the future hold, Christina? Are you looking for other relationships, or?
Yeah, I'm in one. So I'm in one that's relatively new. It's quite fresh, but it's going really well. And yeah, it's very different because being kind of seen and appreciated and cared for as a more kind of complete whole you feels pretty good. And yeah, I'm excited for the future. I'm moving to Manchester, which is where all my friends are. I grew up around there, from Oldham originally, and so Greater Manchester is somewhere that has always felt very homely. And Manchester's such a wonderful city. It's honestly
pretty cool for the queers, isn't it?
It's amazing. So many people I've told it's the gayest city in the UK, and they don't believe me. And then I've had people visit and go, "You know what? You might actually be right."
Yeah. Because, looking at the broader picture, it is pretty fucking tough for trans people at the moment. And I'm talking globally.
It is bleak, yeah. And I think there's a lot of... I don't think it's even apathy towards it, because I don't think it's got as far as apathy. I think there's a lot of ignorance around it outside. Within the community, not so much, but outside of the community, I think people aren't really aware of how bad it is for trans people right now. At work, my current workplace, phenomenal workplace. I absolutely adore my colleagues. They're all super supportive.
Oh, that's great. And you're totally out at work then, yeah?
Totally out at work. I'm fully socially transitioned and, medically transitioned, and, there's still hurdles to jump through. But day to day, out and proud. I don't think anyone would mistake me for a straight person. So my workplace is amazing. It's really supportive. It's a really supportive group, amazing colleagues. But the ignorance outside of the community is quite rife. It was mentioned to me when I started my current job, very innocently, well-meaningly. You get to travel sometimes with this work. It can be amazing. You can get to go to all kinds of different places. You could go to America. You could go to Dubai. You could go to... I rattled off a list of countries. Probably 8 of the 10 that were mentioned, I absolutely cannot go. And the fact that people don't have to think about that, don't even think about it. A few years ago, I thought I'd never see the day that America would be on that list.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no way that I could go to America, and I really feel for everyone there that's currently experiencing the turmoil that's being brought about by this administration.
It is terrifying, isn't it? Everything that man is bringing in and changing, all those rights that are just being stripped away. It's terrifying. I normally ask people for advice for people that hadn't come out yet, but I guess if you're working or part of a support group in Greater Manchester for trans people, I guess you see people at the beginning of their journey all the time, don't you, I guess? And what advice would you say to people who are at the stage that you were in your early 20s and just sort of denying things and being told to take antidepressants and suppress their true selves?
I would say that there's lots of support out there, and to reach out to other, trans, non-binary, LGBT social groups and support groups, and, network with people who have the same experiences as you, the same outlooks as you, because the number of people I've spoken to in this country, overseas, who, I've never met, we didn't grow up together, we grew up in completely different parts of the world or completely different parts of the country, who have such similar experiences. There's an ease of understanding in the community that you don't get anywhere else. You just feel seen and you feel heard, and it just gets easier. But it is hard when you're starting out, and it's a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I never thought I'd be able to get to where I am now. I just didn't think I could. And it was just I have to do something about this that led me down this road. And I'm really happy with where I am. And I'm really glad that I took those really, really hard first steps.
A massive thank you to Christina for sharing her story with us. She's actually a listener of the podcast who gained a lot from listening to previous episodes and decided to contact us via our website so she could tell her story. If you'd like to do the same, you can find us at comingoutStoriesPodcast.com. Next time, we are back off to the US to meet a beauty guru, no less, and an online influencer. Bobby Jean Spears is a proud gay man who told me the signs were always there.
I wanted to play with the Barbies too. My gay awakening was probably Batman Returns, when I would rather have been Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I have a replica of that costume. It's my dream costume. It won me $300 2 Halloweens ago, so you best believe I'm busting it out again this Halloween.